What happens to your body if you do cocaine?
Nose candy, snow, blow.
I ain't gonna lie, I'm watching this video because I really want to know. I just watched a video about people doing their first drugs, and some of them said their first drug was cocaine. So if that's your first drug, how do you get off of that? How you get off of that? Like I feel like coke probably too like super strong, bro. But we finna get into it.
This powder is so ancient that scientists have found traces of it in millennia-old mummies. It even used to be a common ingredient
the mummies
in
used to use it?
medicine. But now it's worth billions on the black market and is responsible for thousands of overdoses every year. It could only be cocaine. Cocaine is one of the most popular...
You see what I'm talking about, though? This is why I'm scared, bro. I can never do that. Like, marijuana is the only thing I'm doing ever in life. I swear.
Recreational drugs, but like with a lot of illegal substances, it can be hard to get straight answers about it. What effect does cocaine have on your body? Where does cocaine even come from? How does a cocaine high feel? And
I ain't gonna lie, I know where it come from.
If you're addicted to cocaine, how can you get better? You've got the questions, we've got the answers, and we recommend you listen closely. You don't want to become another tragic statistic. Let's start off by answering the most important question. What is cocaine? At its most basic level, it's a type of naturally occurring chemical known as a tropane alkaloid. Derived from the leaves of the South American coca plant, once it's extracted from the plant, it's typically processed into a powdered form called cocaine hydrochloride.
See, that's the thing I don't be understanding though. Like, you know how they just put that little thing on the screen with all them little chemical connectors and stuff? What is that? How did humans be able to actually, how did humans come up with these terms of like look at this, bro. How did humans come up with this? What is this? What is this?
Tropane alkaloid, derived from the leaves of the South American
coca plant. Like, how do we extract this data from a plant, bro? How do we extract this data from a plant?
Once it's extracted from the plant, it's typically processed into a powdered form called cocaine hydrochloride. Cocaine is a nervous system stimulant, a class of substances that also includes MDMA, caffeine, nicotine, and prescription medications like Ritalin and Adderall. Like all stimulants, its main effect is that it gives the user...
So, nicotine and caffeine got the same effect of that?
And stimulates the brain's reward pathway. This, as you might guess from the name, is one of the parts of the brain that produces dopamine, a chemical that the brain releases as a form of positive reinforcement. Normally,
like, how did we figure out that the brain is releasing these words? NH2HO, octagons. How did we figure this out? How did we put this into these things right here, bro? Because when humans spawned, we didn't even have lines, bro. Or letters.
The reward pathway is activated by what the brain deems to be positive actions: exercise, eating your favorite foods, finishing a complex task, and listening to music. All things that cause your brain to produce dopamine. But cocaine sends the reward pathway into overdrive, resulting in intense excitement as well as an inflated sense of self-confidence. On the extreme end, a cocaine user might also experience psychotic delusions, and all that excess energy can cause heightened aggression. Other side effects of cocaine use include raised blood pressure.
You know what's crazy though? I done seen a lot of people, you know what I'm saying? I'm from the hood, bro. I done seen a lot of people on that. But I ain't never seen them angry though. I never seen them super aggressive. I never seen them like that. They always be chilling.
Raised body temperature and photosensitivity due to pupil dilation. The high doesn't go on for very long. On average, users start to come down after 15 minutes to a half hour. Even if the high is worn off, the drug isn't immediately
That's why everybody
used
to make all that money back in the day off them Jones. Because the Jones only lasts 15 minutes. You got to keep on using it. Keep on using it.
Traces of cocaine can be picked up in blood and saliva samples for up to 2 days after use, and in urine samples for up to 4 days after. Cocaine use can even be detected by testing hair samples. Metabolized cocaine can be found in your hair for up to 3 months after taking it, which is just another reason to be suspicious
how do
of
they
your
find
boss
that, bro?
if he asks for a hair sample. Before we get into some of the even more severe side effects of cocaine, some of which have had extremely devastating consequences for huge swaths of the American population, let's rewind the clock to see how this prolific drug made its way into modern hands in the first place. Cocaine has had a long history as a medical...
Yeah, let's see, because I really want to know, like, where did it actually come from? I know they be having it in, like, Colombia and all that, but Like, is that where it's originated from?
Treatment going all the way back to the indigenous people in the Andes Mountains in South America.
And they've been using this stuff since 1000 BC?
In the region suggests that cocaine has been used in the area since at least 1000
That's
BC.
crazy.
The Wari and Inca people frequently used the coca leaf as a stimulant, painkiller, and as treatment for altitude sickness when climbing up and down the Andes Mountains. Coca leaves are still used in the same way to this day by the people who live in and around the Andes. Typically, the leaves are chewed or boiled in a kind of medicinal tea. It can also be used to treat mouth ulcers and toothaches by wrapping coca leaves around alkaline burnt ashes and placing the sachet inside your mouth. Coca leaves were also consumed.
See, I wonder, like, if you taking it in that way and not like how the junkies be using it. What's the difference? Like, if you taking in some tea or something, or like you use the leaves and stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like, what's the difference? Somebody let me know.
To lessen the effects of cold and
If y'all
hunger,
ever did
which
that.
are common problems for people living in remote, high-altitude locations. When the Spanish first invaded South America, they saw the locals using coca leaves and immediately knew they wanted some of those magic leaves for themselves.
Oh, that's
when
how it happened. They
Francisco
came and robbed
Pizarro
them for it.
conquered the Inca people in 1532, the Spanish Empire began exploiting the coca plant, forcing the natives to farm it in mass quantities so it could be exported back to Europe. Cocaine really took off in the West in the 19th century after chemists figured out how to isolate cocaine from the plant itself. In this new powdered form, it became a very common ingredient in medicines to treat fatigue, depression, chronic pain, and even poor sexual performance.
But you see what I'm talking about? I ain't even gonna get too deep into it, but you see how they allowed to use it for certain stuff? But then when we try to get some bread off of it, bro, we gotta go to, you know what I'm saying?
In a totally crazy move that really could have only happened during the 19th century, in 1863, a Corsican chemist named Angelo Mariani started selling a drug called Vin Mariani, a mix of cocaine and wine. And of course, cocaine was also an ingredient in Coca-Cola. Like a lot of soda fountain classics, Coke was originally...
Nah. Bro, I always wonder why they called it Coca-Cola. Bro, is that true? But I done drunk some of those, bro. Plenty of those in my life. As a kid, too. Them jokes was always at the cookouts, bruh. I was doing coke. Nah, twin, don't tell me I was. When that stopped, bro? When they stopped putting it in the coke, let me know, bro.
Sold as a patent medicine, a type of brand name over-the-counter drug that was very popular in the 19th century and had dubious health benefits. In the early 1900s, however, an FDA crackdown on quack medicine and a push for cleaner labeling on consumer products led to a lot of patent medicines disappearing from shelves. The ones that did survive did so by drastically changing their formulas and rebranding as soft drinks, including Coca-Cola.
Oh, all right, so I'm out of that spectrum, hopefully. You never know, they act like it ain't in there no more, but it probably still in there. But they saying that they realized made a poster said now have a cocaine-free Coke. That is hilarious, bro. This world is crazy.
Which was totally cocaine-free by 1929. Cocaine was phased out of a lot of medicines
they've been making
over the course of the
Coca-Cola
20th
since
century.
1929, bro. That's crazy how some businesses literally just like been thriving for so long, but they gonna exist forever, bro.
Its effectiveness as a numbing agent and a vasoconstrictant means it's still used as a topical anesthetic to this day. It's most common in nose, eye, and throat surgery, where the blood vessels are very delicate and need to be shrunk to avoid damage. In terms of recreational use, cocaine exploded in popularity in the 19th.
So they still using it in medicine that they put in stuff.
1970s and 80s when it became associated with the clubbing culture and gained a glamorous reputation for being the drug of choice for rich playboys and rock stars. Cocaine's pretty versatile as far as drugs go, and it can be taken in a number of ways. Most commonly, the powder is rubbed onto the gums or inhaled through the nose, but it can also be dissolved in water.
Yeah, somebody in the comment section, let me know the difference, like, if you ever did this before. What was the difference between, like, rubbing on it? Because I know in all the movies and all the, you know what I'm saying, the gangster movies, you would see them go to the plug, get the coke, dip they finger in it, rub it on their gums, you know what I'm saying, to test it out or something. But then you got the people who do it through the nose, and you got the people who probably shoot it through the veins, you feel me? Then you got the people who probably smoke it
via injection. Its free-base form, known colloquially as crack cocaine, we'll talk about crack again later, is also smoked. Cocaine usually isn't taken orally though. With a pKa of 8.6, cocaine is a weak base which interacts with the digestive acid in a way that makes it absorb poorly through the stomach. You can still get high from ingesting cocaine, but the effect is weaker and it takes longer to kick in. Conversely, absorption of cocaine through the gums or nostrils means the chemical crosses the blood-brain barrier faster than other methods. When taken this way,
Oh, this is crazy. It seems like it's too much going on.
the cocaine high will hit within only a couple of minutes of taking the drug. The quick fix nature of cocaine is one of the biggest drawbacks of taking it. It's addictive. Like we said earlier, the high only tends to last about 30 minutes and you begin developing a tolerance to the drug's effects from the very first dose. On top of this, as is the case with a lot of stimulants, the users experience an unpleasant mood and energy crash when its effects start wearing off.
See what I'm saying, though? See, people will still watch stuff like this and still go try it. They just told you after the first try, it's going to be super hard for you to get off of it. It only lasts for 15 minutes. So you take this first 15 minutes of you doing this, bro. It's about to ruin your life. But then we got all this information on YouTube telling you not to do it, bro. People are still going to do it. All you got to do is never try it. Never try
delay
it.
the come down.
Never let
Users
nobody
might
encourage
keep
you to try
taking
it.
bumps to prolong the high, even though each bump will have less and less of a positive effect each time, meaning that more and more doses are required to reach the desired high. Given what cocaine does to your blood pressure, this can have extremely deadly consequences. Cocaine overdose can cause heart attacks or stroke, and habitual cocaine use can lead to all kinds of serious heart conditions, as well as the onset of stress-related disorders and psychosis. Coke bugs is a common delusion suffered by cocaine users going through psychotic episodes, where the sufferer believes that bugs are crawling under their skin.
Bro, I do not have... That would have freaked me out, bro. Imagine just sitting chilling, bro. Next thing you know, you feel like it's like worm. But you know them movies where they got the worms crawling under the skin or something? Bro, I'd have been so... I'd have ran to the doctor. And the doctor gonna ask me what's going on. I feel like it's bugs running through my skin. They gonna know something's wrong with you, bro. That's what I'm saying. Doctors got the funniest jobs, probably. They probably run into so many funny people, bro, who probably be swearing they finna die. But you not.
People who use cocaine only do so casually, in no small part because of how expensive the purer strains of cocaine can get. They might try it once or twice.
I know this off topic, but y'all know them honey packs? I wonder if people done took them junks, because that was something that was like trending and popular. I wonder if them little honey pack junks that had somebody run to the hospital because they was too stiff for too long. And they got to explain that to the nurse, like, my junk won't go down. Hey, yo, this is funny, bro. It's probably so funny being a doctor, bro. If you a doctor, let me know what one of the crazy experiences you had as a doctor, bro. Or the funniest experiences you had as a doctor, bro.
While at a party or a club and may never do it again. But that doesn't mean they're totally off the hook, as even casual cocaine use has its negative effects. Snorting cocaine can cause damage to your nasal passages in the short term, a blocked or runny nose on the mild end, and nosebleeds on the more severe end. Remember when we said that cocaine will shrink the blood vessels when it's applied? Well, when you combine that with a rise in blood pressure, it means that more blood is trying to get through the veins that are becoming thinner and thinner, leading to blood vessels in the nose rupturing and leaving you with a bloody nose. The damage done by infrequent cocaine use can
But y'all
heal
see
on
what I'm
its own,
saying, though? Like,
but
how did we
habitual
even figure out that we could do stuff like this, bro? How do we even know what a blood vessel is, bro? How do we even create something small enough to be able to even zoom into that? How are we able to capture data off of that?
users can often suffer from a constantly runny
Like through blood samples and stuff like that. How are we able to do that, bro? How did this stuff get created, bro?
nose.
It's crazy that we just spawned on this planet with all of this stuff already here and figured out. Like, imagine 30 years from now, bro, the kids just gonna spawn onto the earth with flying cars and
Nosebleeds, complete loss
everything
of
we
their
living about, and everything we living right now is just gonna be like ancient myths at one point.
sense of smell, and a weakened immune system. In extreme cases, people who regularly snort cocaine can contract something called invasive fungal sinusitis, a nasty infection that causes parts of the nose to rot. Even if you don't catch
Bro, what?
invasive fungal sinusitis, cocaine abuse can still make part of your nose rot off. The powdered
Oh, yeah,
form of
that's
cocaine
wild.
is
Your
cocaine
nose could rot
hydrochloride.
off-
So
rot
when you
off from
absorb
using
the
it?
cocaine, you're left with the hydrochloride. If too much hydrochloride builds up in your nose, it can form hydrochloric
That's
acid,
crazy.
which breaks down the cells in the nose over time. Ouch. Cocaine isn't very good for your teeth either. Much like taking it through your nose, taking it via your gums can leave you open to infections. Like all stimulants, It has a dehydrating effect and can lower the production of saliva, which leads to a loss of tooth enamel. Cocaine use can also cause involuntary tooth grinding, which can further damage your teeth and gums. Taking cocaine
Involuntary tooth
intravenously is
grinding.
probably the most dangerous way to take it, as on top of the risk of stroke, heart attack, and psychotic breakdowns, you also have to worry about fun things like embolism and needle contamination. Incidentally, Sherlock Holmes, the famous detective from the novels of Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, was a periodic user of injected cocaine. It goes without saying that this was a little more normalized during the Victorian era than it is now. Strangely enough, people who consume
Bro,
cocaine this way...
why did I always think that Sherlock Holmes was a created character? I did not know Sherlock Holmes was a real person, bro. I gotta do my research.
also often
I
report
thought he was
getting
just a myth or
tinnitus
something, like
straight
a
after
novel or
injecting,
a book or
which
something.
usually lasts for a couple of minutes. Those who inject cocaine are more likely to overdose, as the high wears off a lot faster than it does when taken through the nose or gums. Cocaine is also sometimes mixed with heroin to create something called a speedball, which is extremely dangerous,
speedball?
as the complementary
I
effects
ain't
of
never
the two
heard of
drugs
that.
together
I ain't never heard of that in my life. A speedball. Y'all just taught me something new. A speedball. Yeah, y'all wildin'.
make it hard to recognize symptoms of overdose. A lot of people have died as a result of a speedball overdose, including a number of celebrities such as John Belushi, River Phoenix, and Philip Seymour Hoffman. The idea, since the chemicals combine and form a substance called cocaethylene in your liver. Cocaethylene produces a more euphoric high, but it increases your risk of developing heart problems significantly. The fact that cocaine is a social drug also means it's often associated with blood-borne illnesses like hepatitis C. People tend to do cocaine in groups, and when they
Blood-borne
sew
illnesses.
lines with the same straw or inject it with the same needle, it greatly increases the likelihood of illnesses spreading from person to person. Now that we've covered the effects of
I
cocaine,
ain't gonna lie. I
let's
don't even like sharing a blunt with nobody. So I could never imagine me sharing a needle with somebody, bro, or like what? But I guess when you like zoned out, you don't even be knowing what you're doing sometimes. You probably just do something and you just get so used to it. You know what I'm saying? You don't think nothing happening. You just always, you know what I'm saying? A speedball is crazy. Now, what they about to say about sugar, bro? Don't tell me it's in the sugar.
circle back to its freebase form, crack. Cocaine in its powdered form can't be smoked, as it burns too completely and too quickly. But in its solid or freebase form, it has a melting point of 98 degrees Celsius, which means it can be sublimated and inhaled as a vapor. Crack cocaine is made by boiling cocaine powder in water over a constant heat and mixing in some base, such as baking soda. The mixture then cools into a brittle crack rock that can be broken into smaller pieces and smoked using a pipe. Like any drug taken
Why
by
the dude
smoking,
talking about you can
crack
try
can
this, it
cause
cools?
long-term damage to
And
lungs.
why would he want to try this? It cools, bro. He going. Oh no, it's probably the same thing because you burning it regardless. I thought he was trying to set him up or something.
To the point that crack users cough up blood. Crack comes with its own unique side effects compared to, say, cigarettes or marijuana, due to the unique way it has to be smoked. Unlike weed or cigarettes, the vapor produced from melting a crack rock loses its potency very quickly. Crack pipes are typically very short to reduce the time it takes for the substance to travel from the pipe to the user's lungs as much as possible. And since crack pipes are normally made of glass, they tend to get very hot very quickly. Because of this, people
okay.
who smoke crack will develop blisters on their lips and fingers from touching the hot glass too much. Crack became such a hot-button issue in American culture that in its heyday,
So that's why they use the. Okay, yeah, it makes sense. That's why they use the glass over the like rolling it up in some paper or something, because it ain't gonna get hot enough to like. It makes sense. Like if you like, yeah, it makes sense.
bizarre public service announcements featuring a wide range of public figures, such as movie star Clint Eastwood and children's entertainment character Pee Wee Herman, were televised across the U.S., hoping to discourage people from taking the drug. During the moral panic around crack cocaine in the 1980s and 90s, when the drug became popular in low-income neighborhoods across America, concerns were raised about the health of children born to parents who smoked crack. The term crack baby arose as part of that moral panic, and many anti-drug groups argued that crack usage in pregnant people would lead to a generation of children with poor health, low intelligence, and underdeveloped social skills. This turned out to be a greatly exaggerated fear based mainly on racism and classism. Studies done since have shown that compared to the effects of nicotine and alcohol use during pregnancy, the effects of cocaine on fetal development were negligible. However, cocaine abuse during pregnancy can cause a miscarriage and can in some cases trigger premature labor. Crack is also cheaper than powdered cocaine, which means it's more likely to be cut with other drugs and potentially poisonous substances. This is not to say that powdered cocaine is never cut with any hidden nasties though. Cheap cocaine is often cut with baking soda, quinine, or sugar, which can cause blockages in blood vessels when injected or respiratory infections.
Y'all know all I'm hearing about this video is just a bunch of negatives. I ain't heard no. I mean, I'm guessing it's never gonna be negative when it come to, you know what I'm saying, using these type of things. But y'all ain't. If you smart, you ain't hear nothing but negatives. So take that as a lesson.
Infections when inhaled. It can also be cut
Every
with a
single
drug
way they
called
said you could do it,
levamisole,
all I
which
heard was
heightens the drug's
a
effects,
negative.
but has been associated with the development of autoimmune disease. Cocaine's also
still
increasingly
name it
being
negative.
contaminated with fentanyl, an extremely potent synthetic opioid. While many have speculated that drug manufacturers combine the two drugs intentionally,
Now we gotta
tests
watch
done
what
on
does that
seized
do to your
cocaine
body.
by police
Damn.
suggest that fentanyl is usually only present in trace elements. Fentanyl has become a very popular drug in the past decade, and it's likely that cross-contamination occurs simply as a result of the two drugs being processed in the same lab or from them being stored in the same places. But because of how potent fentanyl is, consuming drugs with even trace elements of it can have noticeable negative consequences. Like a speedball, the mix of fentanyl and cocaine can have deadly effects if the signs of overdose aren't spotted quickly. Given that cocaine addiction can lead to all of these horrible effects, it might give you some comfort to know that the physical effects of cocaine withdrawal are fairly minor. Cocaine withdrawal can cause disturbed sleep schedules, increased appetite, slower reaction time, and
Hold on,
fatigue.
so you get the munchies from doing coke? You get the munchies too? My man, he punishing that burger right now.
These physical symptoms usually start to go away a few days after quitting. However, the psychological effects can be much more severe. Cocaine withdrawal can often cause severe depression and anxiety, as the brain's reward pathway needs time to repair itself from overstimulation. Therapy
Yeah,
can
when
help
he
to
was saying
alleviate these
that-
psychological symptoms, but the process of recovery can take years. And
When he was saying that it wasn't it was minor side effects from quitting, I was like, huh? That can't be true.
during that time, the person may feel compelled to relapse and start taking cocaine again. That's why it's important for people trying to quit cocaine to have a social support network, and why group therapy is so important in cocaine addiction rehab. Because while many have survived and moved on from cocaine use, it only takes one unlucky session for things to take a turn for the worst. Now watch
hear
what
that?
happens to your body.
I don't want to watch this one. Should we watch this one? I see the munchies right there. I ain't gonna lie. But we might have to watch that one, bro.